This is chapter 3, database users. In the database management security, under this course, we are talking about chapter 3. This chapter, we will see about how to create user account, create user only. Only this 4-5 lines. Only we will see entire chapter. Create database user with a create user system privilege. It is called system privilege, object privilege. We already studied this. System privilege, under system privilege, create user statement will come. What system create user content? Create user contain username, default table space, quota, temporal table space, profile. So how many things? 1, 2. Default table space is at 2. Second one. Third is quota. Fourth is temporary table space. Fifth is profile. Only 5 important parts is contained by create user. A database administrator or security administrator is usually the only user who can create the create user system privilege. Who create the create user is these two people. A newly created user cannot connect to database until you grant the user to the create session or system privilege. So this is actually statement, because here what? Semicolon is this. Statement is over. But if you want to connect to this user into database, means I should give what? Grant. Grant, create session also system privilege to what? This username. That's what I want to do. First we will see line by line each part. Part number 1. How you specify username. Create user, username, Ahmed is username, identify by Ahmed. This is first line. I'm talking now. What I want to do is I want to make this single statement as a 5 different part. This is part 1. This single line. Part 2 is nothing but what? Default. Part 3 is quota. Part 4 is temporary. Part 5 is profile. This way my lecture will continue. Number 1. Number 1 is creating user. Create user, Ahmed, identify by Ahmed. Within each database, username must be unique. I can't able to create user Ahmed. Then problem will come. And username and role cannot have the same name. For example, create role Ahmed. If I give, it's a error. So it conflicts. So both the name should be what? Role name and the username should be unique, and all username should be unique. That's what. I can't able to create again one more Ahmed. So you can select how many users are in the database. Select username from all users. Now you see Ahmed. But generally, if you give any case, because it is whether capital letter or lowercase, but it will store as what? Capital letters. It always store in uppercase. Now we see what is the difference. Why I am insisting here is a case sensitive. If you enclose the username in double, suppose I will use Ahmed in double quote, that time it will store what? Case sensitive. So that Ahmed and this is different. It considers 2 different users. So then the name stored using the case sensitive that we used for the name. So it will take it as what? Case sensitive. So if you without quotation, double quotation means it will take what? Always capital letter by default. If you specifically mention double quotation, it will take. Suppose I want to drop the user. I will use double quotation again. Suppose I use double quotation. To drop the user that you have created using double quotation mark, then you must enclose the username with double quotation mark. Assigning default. This is part number 2. What is part number 2? First we created users. We said create users. Create user, username. Now what? Identify by password. This is a password. Username is Javed and identify by JW. So here also same. Create user, username. Identify by, this is my password. This is compulsory. Identify by, you should give. Then only it will authenticate by the database. That is the meaning. Identify means authenticated by the database. This is the password I should supply. So first line is over. The part 1 is over. Now we are going part 2. What is part 2? What is defaulting? What is defaulting? Now we can see assigning a default table space for a user. Each user should have the default table. Why? Why we need the purpose? What is the purpose of it? When a schema object is created in the user schema and the DDL statement does not specify the table space to contain object, Oracle database store object in the default user table space. By default setting what? Default table space for all users is a system table space. What is system? I will go and check with the system table space. System table space is nothing but the primary table space in any database is the system table, which contain information basic to the functioning of the database server, such as data dictionary and system rollback signals. System table space is the first table space created at database creation. Each and every database should have what? One system table space. Whenever you create database, it will automatically, by default, the first table space created in the system. It is managed as any other table space, but it requires higher level of privileges and is restricted in some ways. So you cannot rename or drop system table space, or take it as offline. This is a problem of system table space. Now we can go what is called the system table space. Yeah. Now we can see the whatever the table space. So now what is the second one? Default table space. So now we know what is a default table space. What is the purpose? So default table space for all users is a system table space. But if I in general do not store user data in the system table space, because every database creation have higher level of privilege. Instead of that, what it will do is when user should specifically assign a user default table space. That's a user's table space. That is slide number 6. Next slide we can see. How user create default. This is user table space. Create user Amar, identify by Amar. Oh wait. I'm not here. What I'm doing? I'm mentioning any table space. No. If I am not mentioning any table space, automatically it will create what? Users. Default table space is what? Users. So select default table space from DBA users. Where username is called what? Amar. What assigned? Users. So if you are assigning or not assigning, by default it will take user. So otherwise we can mention like this: create user Amar, identify default table spaces user. That also we can give. If you won't give also, it will take users. That is the meaning of it actually. That's what I say. Such as user table space. How user create default table space? Use the create table space SQL statement to create default permanent table space other than system at the time of database creation. How to create table space you can see. There is one method. What is the first method? Method is you don't create, it will take automatically. Suppose I want to specifically mention one table space. Then what I want to do? Like that. Create table space name Amar underscore TS. This is my table space name. Data file .afl generally it will store in what? TEMP. And my data file I given size, extent, we know that extent management local, segment space managed auto. This way I will create my table space. What is my table space name? Amar underscore TS. So alter default database. How I want to do it? Once I can alter the database. By default it is given what users. Now I want to change my database. Alter database. Default table space is Amar TS. So I created what table space. Now I check. Select default table space from DBA. Even though you are not alter your user, but you are changed what? The table database default table space is Amar TS. Automatically Amar get what? Amar instead of users. Are you understanding? Because what happened here is if I change in the database, default table space is reverse will name. Automatically those who are having users, that is previous default table space users, it automatically change. Previously what is users come. Now once I change database, here we should be very clear. I am changing here database. If you change the database, automatically those who are assigned users all are getting what? This table space. That is default table space changes the users also. So this is what user created default permanent table space. Why I want to create? The future of user create default permanent. The default permanent table space is not used by system users. That is sys won't use, system won't use, OTL and OUTL and never use. Table space designated as default permanent table space cannot be dropped. Suppose I used here Amar TS. I want to drop Amar TS. I can't. It gives a error. So that case what I want to do? I want to alter the table space. Use the alter table SQL statement to alter the default permanent table space to another table space. Alternative method to create user default table spaces. The user default table space during user creation, change it later with alter user. Alter user is another method. How I am doing? First, for example, here I am doing what? Default table space now is Amar TS. Alter user default table space is TS. Now what happens? This is another method. I can change my table space of the user. Table space of the user. So changing the user default table space affects only the object created after the setting is changed, not before creating. After creating only it will be. We can use this actually. We never delete. You can't able to drop the space. So this is already we say alter your users. And assigning table space quota for the user. Assigning each user table space quota for any table space. If this is part number 3. Part number 1 is what already? Part number 1 is already over with your what? Create user, username identified by Amar. This is password. Part number 1 is over. Part number uses default table space. Part 2 is over. Now third is quota. What is quota? That's assigning table space quota for the user. Assign each user a table space quota for any table space. If the user has the privilege to create schema object, then you should assign a quota to allow the user to create object. What is the purpose of quota? User with privilege to create certain types of object can create those objects in the specific table space. So they can create the object like what? Object privileges using the column. Some column only I can give the privileges like that. Oracle database limit the amount of space that can be allocated for storage of user objects. So it will allocate what it will make limitation for the quota within the specified table space to the amount of quota. Quota means what? Limitation for the particular user. That's a major one. By default, user has no quota on any table space in the database. So you can see what? Create user Ahmad, identified by Ahmad. This is one line, part number 1. Part number 2. Default table space user. By default, if you mention or not mention, it is user. Quota, I will say test TS and data TS. Here I will explain because it is actually already created table space means I can use. You think here already one table space is available. That name is what? Test.ts, data.ts. It is already created. Table space is created. Default table space created. That table space name I am using. That is a meaning. Temporary table space profile. That's what over here. Here you see. This is part number 3 is over. Now part number 4. What is part number 4? Part number 1. Part number 2 is default table space. 3 is quota. 4th is temporary table space. What is temporary? Assigning temporary table space for the user. You should assign each user a temporary table space. Why? Why I want to assign? When a user executes SQL statement that require temporary segment, Oracle database stores the segment in the temporary table space of the users. We can go and see what is temporary table space, how it is used. What is temporary table space? Here I have given as a reference because some people doesn't know what is temporary table space. Temporary table space are used for special operations, particularly for charting data result on disk and for hash join in SQL. Hash join and partition whenever we do hash algorithm using hash partition like that. For SQL with millions of rows, return the chart operation is too large for the RAM area and must occur at disk. The temporary table space is where this takes place. So this type of operations or function where it will take part is in the temporary table space only. Each database should have one temporary table space that is created when the database is created, like default table space. Or when you create a database, it will automatically create a system table space as a default table space. In the same way, there is one temporary table space is also created when what? Whenever you are creating the database. You create or drop or manage table space with create temporary table space, drop temporary table space and alter table space with command. Lot of commands are there. Alter, delete. This way we can do the temporary table space. I think and when is doing. Who is doing this work? Previously we said this is automatically created default table space. Here, these temporary segments are created by the system. The system, whenever the system privilege people, when performing certain join out. Who's the owner? Sys is the owner. Resource privileges of all the tables. This temporary tables. Sys is the owner. Temporary table space, if user explicitly do not create, if I am not creating any temporary table space, by default system table space, like temp, here how default table space users, if I am not giving any name, what name is automatically taking? If I am not giving any name, in the example I showed, if I am not giving any name, what is taking? If I am not mentioning any name, automatically take what? Users. In the same way, how default table space, in the same way, temporary table space by default take the value called what? Temp is a name, it will automatically take. You see here, temp. If I am not mentioning, I will check what? Temp is a by default temporary table space assigned to where? User. So method 1. Oracle database assigned with a temporary table space as specified in the database creation. By an alter database statement at a later time, I can change the table space also. That means, first I say, I am not giving any name. For example, think create user, username, create user, username, identify by username. I am saying default temporary table space is that nothing I am doing. I am not giving, I am just giving one line. Think like this. This way I am giving one line. I am not giving anything. Create alter user, I am not giving. I am just mentioning like this. Default, whatever the create user, identify by that's all. I am not giving anything. Automatically I will take user. In the same way, it will take what? Temp also. If you won't mention also, it will take temp. So that is the reason. Here what I am doing, I am not giving any name. It will take temp. Now I am creating temporary table space. Create temporary table space. Table space name is temp underscore ts. Temp file. Where I want to store the temp file? C:temp by default dbase. Same thing created. Alter user amar. Temporary table space now is what? Now is not temp. I want to use which table space? I created a table space name called what? Temp ts. That I want to use. I am alter the user. Now you see what name is coming. Temp database is coming. In the same way I can use alter database also. Suppose alter database also. Temporary table space on DBA users, what is coming? Username is temp. Alter database default temporary table space temp ts means what? If I want use, maybe I can use alter user means what? Only one user Amar will use this. Suppose I want to use everyone, all the other users to use temporary table space is what? Temp ts means I can change alter database. Database default temporary table space is what? Temp ts. So select temporary table space from DB users where username Amar is means what? Now it is changed. So everyone those who are in the database, all users it will change. This is the meaning. Like same, like how default table space same. So how many parts are over now? Now create user is over, default table space is over, quota is over, temporary. What you learned still now, I'll just recap. Create user, username, identify by password that we studied. If you won't mention this line, by default it will take what? Users. If you won't mention this line, it by default it will take what? Temp, T-E-M-P, temp it will take. If I want to mention particular, that time what I use create table space. Then I will change my table space name. That is what I will do it here. So create my table space like this. Then I will give my table space name. I want to create same way. I should create temporary table space. I can mention this name. Now last part is here. What is the last part? Profile. What is profile? What is the difference between profile and the role? That we will see in the next chapter. This chapter I wanted just to mention what is profile. That's all. So very detailed study in chapter number 4 about the profile. Profile is a set of limit on database resources and password access to the database. We should give for some limitation. Specify profile when you create a user. Do not specify a profile. Suppose I am not mentioning. I just say create user, username, identify by password. That's all. I'm not mentioning any table space. I'm not mentioning any quota. I'm not mentioning any temporary table space. I'm not mentioning any profile, what will happen? Everything will take as what? User stem like this. It will take default. Default is one profile name. It will take default profile. So that's what. Do not specify profile. Then Oracle database assign the user what? Default profile. How to create profile? First to create profile, then assign to the user. Otherwise error will come. So create profile clerk. Clerk is a profile name. Limit keyword. Session per user is 1. Idle time is 30 minutes and connect time is 600 minutes. So whatever it may be, I can provide the profile, whatever the user here. Here I can use the username. This way I can give the username here. So profile, now I can what? I can give the profile name for the particular user. So profile clerk is a, I am assigning to profile to whom? User. Agamat I am giving the profile. This way I am giving the profile name here. So next one I want to go to drop your profile. I want to drop your profile. What I want to do is drop profile name, that is clerk, cascade. When I want to use cascade, suppose I assigned some profile name currently users. That time what I can do? I cannot able to drop. It gives an error. That time I will use what? Cascade. Cascade if you use, it will never give the errors. It will give what actually? It will automatically connect your database. That is a major advantage of it. So that's why I'm connecting with this one as a cascade. Any user currently assigned to the profile, that is dropped automatically assigned to the default profile. Suppose I drop clerk is there. I assign clerk as a profile to whom? Actually Amar. Think Agamat have clerk profile. But I am deleted clerk. You see, I am deleted clerk. What profile will come? Automatically default profile will come. That is the meaning. If I am deleting means automatically it will take which profile? It will take the profile of the particular user's default profile. It will take as a major one. That's what it will do. Default profile cannot be. We cannot able to delete what? Default profile. Like how users name, they all are created by system, we cannot able to delete. When a profile is dropped, the drop does not affect currently active session. Later, after the session over. Only session created after the profile is dropped is the modified profile. Now we see what are the things as well. Create profile name, I am giving it. Select user profile from dbase users where username Amar is giving what? Profile as what? Default. Okay, I am giving here users whatever it may be. It assign the user default profile. Suppose I will use alter user Amar profile clerk. I am changing it instead of default. You see, drop profile clerk. Why it is not giving error? Why it's giving error? Because currently user is using. Now we use cascade. Currently assigned to the user, use the cascade. I think now you understood. So any user currently assigned to the profile, that is dropped automatically assigned to the default profile. Now we see. Now I given what? Alter user Amar profile is clerk. User alter. Username, now we see it is clerk. Drop profile clerk cascade. Drop. Now you see what profile now Amar is having. You see default 180. It contains default tablespace. It contains what? Default tablespace. Yeah. So that's what it contains. Drop profile default. Actually, it is wrong. It is come under default only. It won't come this word default. It will come word as a default one. Now we can see. I want to delete the default tablespace. Drop profile. This is a mistake. 1818 is a mistake. Actually, it will come as what? It is come as a error. It is coming as an error. Default only. It is a error. So it is default only. So whenever you use this particular thing, now I want to change. Drop profile default. What is happening? Error. You cannot able to delete. Cascade and still error. So you cannot able to delete. Another interesting thing. We already studied role and username, not the same. But role and profile name, there is no problem. No need unique. I given role as clerk and then what? Profile also clerk. No problem. No error. So grant clerk to Amar means what? This is old name. So this and all. Alter user statement we can use. Identify externally. This is, we still know what we studied. Username identified by. Identified by means authenticated by database. That is possible. Identify externally means what? Authenticated by operating system. That is a meaning. That case, no need of database. So I will check default table space. This way also I can create. I can alter user. Instead of identify by, I can give what? Identify externally. Change the user security setting. Affect the future user. That way I can change the. Now you see non-system user password. Alter user Agamat identify by age. Instead of Agamat, what I can do? I can change the password also. Change password, what I can use? Alter user. Instead of Agamat, I can use what? AH. Delete user account. Drop user. Amat. So I can delete the username. That time what happened? Drop all schema object. It will delete the schema object. I want to list all the username. That time what I will use? dba underscore users. So it will be username, what profile, account status, whether authenticated by the password. That it will be the information. Here I want to know quota details. Then I can give what? dba, table space, quota. Which table space? Table space quota. What are the names? If I give -1 means what? Here. Then the round up accordingly. Unlimited quota. There is no unlimited. Maximum bytes will give what? How many unlimited? What is the limitage of it? If -1 means unlimited. That is the meaning of the quota. So suppose if I say DBA profile, I want to know what are the DBA profile where profile is clapped. What are the privileges is having? Resource name, password, use time, use max, lock time, grace time. This will study next chapter, chapter number 4. I will explain each and every line because this is our chapter number 4. So DBA profile, you list all profile in the database, associated setting, each limit. This is a limitation of the profile. That's why what we are using. Create profile, profile name, and then I'm using the word called what? I'm using the word limit. You see here? Limit. So this is called the limitation of the particular profile we can use. This is just a class exercise. How we want to create the table. This is the end of the chapter now.